What if the most terrifying monster of all time was not born in a writer's imagination, but in the flesh and blood of a real man? The year was 1462, and smoke curled over the Carpathian Mountains like black snakes slithering across the sky. Villagers whispered prayers as a shadow swept over their homeland. Not a storm, not an army, but one man. His name was Vlad Tepes, though history remembers him by another name, Vlad the Impaler. Centuries later, he would inspire the myth of Count Dracula. But for the people of his time, there was no myth. There was only terror. Picture the scene. Hundreds of Turkish soldiers, hardened by battle, marched into Wallachia expecting to face swords, shields, and perhaps a desperate fight. Instead, they stopped dead in their tracks. Before them rose a forest unlike any on earth. 20,000 men, women, and children impaled on tall wooden stakes, their bodies swaying in the wind, their eyes long emptied of life. Some still twitched faintly, their agony dragging on for hours, even days. The air stank of blood and rotting flesh. The soldiers gagged, their courage dissolving into horror. That sight alone was enough to break the spirit of an entire invading army. Vlad watched them from the shadows of his fortress, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with something more than hatred, something colder, sharper. He had lost family to enemies who betrayed him. He had been held hostage as a boy in foreign lands, treated as little more than a pawn in someone else's game. Every cruelty done to him had planted a seed, and now the harvest was this, a landscape of bodies, a theater of fear. He had turned pain into a weapon more powerful than any sword. To the peasants of Wallachia, Vlad was both savior and nightmare. He protected them from the vast Ottoman Empire, the greatest military force of the time, yet he did it with methods that made even hardened soldiers tremble. They whispered of his thirst for blood, of his banquets where the impaled screamed in the distance as he calmly dipped bread into goblets of red wine. Was it wine? Or was it something darker? Their imaginations filled in the gaps, and soon, rumor became legend. It is easy, centuries later, to dismiss these whispers as superstition. But imagine being there, your child clutching your hand as the sun set over a sky filled with crows, the earth beneath your feet soaked in iron-scented blood. Imagine hearing stories of your ruler drinking from golden cups, his lips stained red, his smile carved too wide. Would you not believe he was something more than a man? Something unholy? Even the chroniclers of the time, men trained to record history, faltered when they wrote of him. They did not simply describe battles, they described nightmares. One German pamphlet from the 15th century tells of him boiling men alive, of him cutting off limbs and noses, of him burning whole villages in retribution. Each act was justified, in his mind, as justice, as order, but to his enemies, he was the devil himself. The Ottomans called him Kazikli Bey, the Impaler Prince. To his allies, he was both protector and tyrant. To his enemies, he was a curse upon the land. And yet, through all of this, his humanity glimmered in strange, twisted ways. He loved his homeland fiercely. He saw betrayal everywhere and fought it with brutality. He was a father, a husband, a ruler who carried the unbearable weight of survival in a time where kingdoms crumbled overnight. But here is the question that has haunted centuries. Did Vlad Tepes truly drink blood? Or was it the villagers, terrified and desperate to explain his cruelty, who gave birth to the legend that would outlive him? The line between man and monster blurred in the flickering torchlight, and once blurred, it was never drawn back again. And so, when Bram Stoker's Dracula rose from the pages 400 years later, he was not a creature plucked from thin air. He was an echo of screams carried on the Carpathian winds, an echo of a prince who ruled with horror as his crown and blood as his shield. But what became of Vlad the Impaler after the horror of his reign? Did his own people turn against him? Did he die as a man, or vanish as a legend, his grave empty, his body unclaimed? The truth of his end is as chilling as his life, and it is there, in the shadows of his death, that the real story of Dracula begins. Would you like me to continue this tale into the next act, where we follow the mystery of Vlad's death and how it gave rise to the vampire myth?